So let's just start by me asking you, everyone, if you have any specific questions or any difficulties you ran into in the last week. Keld, would you like to go first?
I find it a little difficult navigating the camera in 3D. When I want to go one way, I push something on the keyboard and I find myself traveling in the opposite direction or something. So
okay.
It's the problem is zooming in, because I want to move forward, and the zooming process is depending on which way I'm facing the camera. It's probably just getting used to. I haven't finished the assignment yet, so I just tried it very shortly to get a feel for what might cause problem in doing the assignment.
Yeah. What version of QGIS are you using?
322.
Okay. Let me where's that? While I'm bringing this up, let's see. Anna's, would you like to go next? Is there anything that came up for you?
Well, I have the same problem as before. This period has been so intense, but so I'm planning tomorrow will be better. So I'll just have to dig into the assignments tomorrow. So at the moment, I don't have any specific questions.
Okay. Yep, that totally makes sense. How about you, Charlotta?
I think she's troubling with her microphone.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to log on again.
Well, while she's jumping back on, we're recording this, so this is fine. So, is everyone aware of the QGIS change logs?
No, not the one you. No.
So, well, these are. I will just put this link in the chat for starters. So this is the link I gave you is to the QGIS visual change logs. And so you can see for every version of QGIS that comes out, they create one of these change logs. So for example, 324, I know that Keld and Charlotta, and I don't know about you, Anna's, are running 322. So yeah, so there have been for example, in the 3D environment, some upgrades and new features introduced since 322. So some of these are things that you'll have access to when you migrate to the new LTR, which will become available in a few weeks. So the next LTR will be 328. So that will then, of course, have all the new features introduced at 324, 326, and 328. So for one of these releases, for example, 324 here, they'll organize the new features by category. So you can see at 324, there's a category for 3D features. And there is, if I click on that, it takes me to this section of the visual change log. And I can see that there's some changes here for rendering point clouds in 2D. And for each one of these, they call it a visual change log because they usually put an animated GIF or a photo of that kind of shows you what that feature is about. The dock undock 3D views was also introduced at 324. I think I mentioned that last week when I was showing you that. So this will be another nice 3D feature that you'll have access to eventually. And then, of course, I think Charlotta asked about this, the 3D map view manager. So this is another feature that was introduced for 324. And then Keld was talking about 3D navigation. So here you can see that 324, there's also improved camera navigation. So these are some good reasons if you're interested in working in 3D to upgrade when the new LTR becomes available, because you'll have a better experience in that 3D environment. So it says that the default navigation mode in earlier versions of QGIS would sometimes behave strangely when moving around, rotating, or
Yes.
zooming. So a lot of effort went into improvements of the camera control. So at 3.2.4, the camera navigation's behavior should feel more natural and similar to other 3D mapping software.
Okay.
So that's good.
Well, that proves a point I'm quite often finding myself in, that in time all problems, or at least 95% of them, will go away. So when I move to 3.28, I'll probably no longer have the same amount of trouble navigating.
Then you'll have new problems.
Yes.
So and at 3.2.6, let's see, there's more 3D features. Let's see, some styling features for 3D vectors. Yeah, some syncing between the 3D view and the 2D map canvas. Yeah, it's funny, they're not showing it, but there is a 3D axis in the 3D viewer now, which oddly is not in there.
Oh, it's in the left bottom corner.
Oh, yeah. There
Right
it is.
bottom.
Yeah, there it is. So that's another thing that has appeared now in 3.2.6. And then there were some styling options introduced for point clouds in 3D views to kind of improve the rendering of point clouds in 3D, because since they're a series of, it's an array of points, sometimes when you tilt a point cloud in 3D, you'll see little holes where there are fewer points. So now there's basically a setting in the 3D view where you can set the point cloud to become more solid when you're looking at it in 3D. So that's nice. And then let's see, 3.2.8, is there anything? Yep, there's more 3D features at 3.2.8. So another styling option, ambient occlusion. So basically, this is another way to improve the way a feature will look, or a point cloud will look when looking at it in the 3D viewer, to show some of the texture of what you're seeing. So yeah, just in the 3D viewer has gotten a lot of attention recently, and whenever it's a fairly new part of QGIS, so whenever there's like one of these new aspects of QGIS, and something as complicated as 3D, there's a lot of effort putting into improve it. So you're going to continue to see a lot of new features for 3D, I think, in the coming year or two, along with point clouds. So last week, Charlotta was asking about, oh, and Charlotta, you're on now, and are you still having problems with your microphone? Perhaps. So this, Charlotta, is gonna something you asked about last week, which was visibility analysis, or in English sometimes called a view shed. So here's the Trelleborg scene with the digital surface model, and there's a plugin that you can use to do a visibility analysis in QGIS. So if I start searching for visibility, there's this plugin, visibility analysis. Visibility analysis over a raster DEM. So I installed that this morning, and where that will appear is in the processing toolbox right here. So it adds some tools to QGIS. So if I wanted to calculate visibility, you do it from a point layer, which can have one or more than one point in it. So I could, for example, just to demonstrate this, create a temporary scratch layer. And I'll just call it observer. Make it a point in the same coordinate system. Click OK. And now I'm just going to put a point on the landscape here. And take it out of edit mode. Oops. Okay, so I have the point, and maybe I'll make it easier to see. So let's see, I can make it red. And let's see, maybe I'll just give it a transparent fill color, so it's just a ring. Make it a little bigger. And then I'll add another symbol layer type to it and make it at a red cross. I kind of get like a red target there. Something like that. So there's our observer point, and maybe I'll use some of the things we've covered, like I could put a draw effect on it so it's a little more visible and give it an outer glow so you can see it on the landscape a little better. So we have an observer point, and then the first step in using this plugin, once we have a point layer like this, is to run this tool, create viewports. And basically this tool just identifies takes your point layer and you tell it which DEM, which layer is your DEM. You can set a radius of the analysis. I'm going to make this a little smaller so that it won't take forever to run. And then your observer height, so it kind of gives a person's standard height, 1.6 meters. You could set that. And so it basically just enters this radius and this observer height and anything else you put in here as fields in a new copy of that layer. So it's basically just taking your layer and adding a couple of fields to it. And so I can click run. And now I have my output layer, and I can use this little trick. I can go to styles, copy style on my original layer, and right click on my other layer and go styles, paste style. So I have the same symbol there. And I'll call this, I'll change the name to viewport. Okay, so we have this viewport layer now. And if I open up the attribute table, it's simply going to have, sorry, to the other monitor, this observer height and the radius as new fields. That's all the tool did. So now I can go to the viewshed tool, and I can choose my observer location. So it's the viewport. I can choose my digital elevation model. And this will run in several different modes. So it has the default is a binary viewshed, which produces a visibility map where each observer point on it. So it basically will create a raster where every pixel is either visible or not visible from that point. It also has depth below horizon, which is going to create an output raster for the height that each location should attain in order to become visible if it's not. And then there's this horizon, which I don't really understand this one. Outer edges of a view shed. I haven't used this, so I don't know what this setting does. But I'm just going to put it on the default binary view shed and run this. And if you have multiple points in your layer, you can combine the view shed. It's going to calculate the view shed for each individual point. And then this tool will combine those view sheds in different ways. So you can choose addition or minimum and maximum, but I only have 1 point, so it doesn't matter which I choose. And I'll click run. And hopefully this doesn't take forever, but I really don't know how long it's going to take. Give it a minute. And I have some slides from a couple of years ago on this plugin that I can show if this ends up taking too long. But when it finishes what it should produce, here it is, output raster. So I can go into layer styling. So for rasters, since this should be binary, I should be able to use this paletted unique values rendering for it, which will classify the landscape into visible and not visible from this point. So 1 is going to be visible and 0 not. So I could just remove that. And now I have the visible parts of the landscape. Maybe I'll change the color of this to black to make it easier to see here. So there's our viewport. And any pixel that's red would be visible from that location. So these trees here are blocking part of this hill, but we get this part of this hill visible from that location. So that's essentially what this plugin does, is it creates one of these view shed analyses. And like I said, we could add points to our viewport, and choose a method to combine those and get an overall view shed from multiple locations if we wanted to. And there must be something. Oh yeah, there's some trees right here that are blocking our view right there. So when we have a digital surface model here that includes trees and buildings, we get a pretty nice, accurate view shed. And let's see if we bring this into 3D. Choose a DEM raster layer. Click OK. And I might want to extrude the terrain a little bit to make it a little more dramatic. I can choose a vertical scale, so I could increase this to make the terrain a little more exaggerated. And if I zoom into that point, I should be able to produce a nice visual, but now it seems to be hanging up for some reason. Oops. Maybe I'll start over and try this again. So if I get myself down close to that point, I can start to see why. I can see some parts of the terrain and not others from that particular point. I can see that some trees here that are blocking my view in some directions. And so anyway, that's how you do a viewshed analysis in QGIS, at least one way. I know there are some other tools in here. There's another, so if I search the toolbox for VIS for visibility, there's another processing plugin for QGIS called White Box Tools. So White Box Tools is a processing library that has a lot of really interesting processing tools in it, especially for elevation data. And so this is one where when you install the plugin, you have to configure it. So you have to tell QGIS where your local installation of White Box Tools is. So there's 2 steps: going to White Box Tools and downloading it and installing it on your computer, and then telling QGIS where that installation directory is, so it can run the tools. But if I search in here, I can see there's also this visibility index tool with White Box Tools in this geomorphetic analysis section. So there are a lot of tools in here for doing things like this as well. So that could be another option for doing that. And I believe there's a grass tool as well. Yeah, let's see, where is it? I thought there was I don't think NVIS opens up a 3D window in grass, but there used to be a grass function for this too, but I don't see it right now. Anyway. So that's the only thing I really had to show you today. And I do have a couple shameless plugs. One is, and I think I mentioned these, but I write QGIS books, and so there are these 2 books that I updated in 2022. So this one on the left, QGIS for hydrological applications, myself and a Dutch hydrologist, Hans van der Kwast, and I have written this, and we updated this in May last year. So it's updated to QGIS 3.2.2, and so it has some other important updates in it. We had used in the first edition Saga tools in QGIS, but the Saga tools have had some compatibility issues with QGIS. So we changed the analysis to be done using this other open source software that's Dutch called PC Raster. And so this book covers how to do the same kind of catchment delineation from a DEM using PC Raster. And it also includes a lot of data styling aspects to it and map creation. And then Discover QGIS 3X is a much bigger book. It's 420 pages, and it's a really thorough treatment of all the capabilities of QGIS. And it starts out at 0. We're just teaching you about data models and how to work with the QGIS interface. And then it goes into spatial analysis, geographic analysis, data management, including field data collection. And then the 4th section is cartography, and the 5th section is data visualization. So a lot of the things that we learned in this class are in that 5th chapter, but we didn't go through the whole 5th section in this class. There's a little bit more in the book. So that could be of interest. And if you have questions, feel free to interrupt me and ask. But I was going to show everyone also that we have a lot of upcoming courses. Some of these will be at our office in Copenhagen, but a lot of these are online as well. So For example, I'll be offering this course throughout the year, field data collection with QGIS and Mergent Maps, which will, it's a short course, it's only 2 hours, and you learn how to use the Mergent Maps system with QGIS to collect data with your mobile phone. The raster data and analysis class is also an online course. And so that teaches you, it's the same length as this course, and two-hour sessions with the follow-up sessions. And it teaches you how to work with raster data and conduct an analysis for locating a potential wine vineyard site using raster data. And there's also a QGIS symbology course here. Yeah, Introduction to QGIS Symbology, which is really the one that comes before the class you've just taken. This introduces all the basics of QGIS symbology, how to work with the layer styling panel and symbolize points, lines, polygons, and rasters, things like that. So those are all coming up. And Keld and I were just talking about this. There's also a QGIS user conference coming up in the Netherlands in April. And so these are fantastic. The whole QGIS community comes to these. And so it'll be a 2-day, what they call a contributors meeting, where you can come and hear talks. It's like a short conference. There'll be workshops and talks for 2 days. And then after that is a 3-day, basically Hackfest. The first day of that, they call it an onboarding day, where there will be developers in the QGIS community teaching you how to contribute to QGIS documentation or anything you want to do, like maybe start working on a plugin or something. And so it's just the community coming together and working on QGIS, and there's plenty of help there for newcomers. So that's something that might be of interest. I'm going to be there. I think I'm going to teach a workshop and give a talk at that. And then here in Denmark, we have a QGIS user group, and there's going to be an online meeting on the 8th of March, just a short online session. And then there's going to be a physical meeting in Nyborg, and that's on April 27th. So that'll be a full day meeting. So you should look at those. And I know there's a Swedish QGIS user group too, and they probably have something coming up as well. So that's a little bit of news.
Regarding the Mergent, was that the name of the collecting tool?
Yeah.
Can it use external GPS data? For instance, if you have one of the RTK GPSs, I know I haven't tried this yet, but there's supposed to be a plugin where you can connect your third-party GPS to your cell phone and use the program.
Yes, so as long as you can pair your cell phone with a third-party GPS receiver, you can use that. So there's some that connect via Bluetooth to your mobile phone. So yeah, there's certainly ways to do that. And if it's a Bluetooth receiver, it's very easy to configure that. And Mergent Maps is also available on Apple, Android, and Windows smartphones. So if you have a Windows mobile device for your RTK receiver, you can probably use Mergent Maps on that. So should be possible.
Yeah.
Everyone's setup is a little different, but. And so, yeah, the workflow there is basically building a QGIS project with whatever survey layers you want, and you can have point, line, polygon, and multiple of those, and then setting up the field forms to make it easier when you're outside, and then once you use the Mergin plugin, it basically, it's like a versioning system for QGIS projects. It basically uploads your QGIS project file to the Mergin Maps cloud, and then you can download it onto your mobile device with the Mergin Maps app, and everything will look exactly the same. Symbology that you set up in QGIS will be the same on the map and on your mobile phone, and you can go out and collect your data and sync that. If you're connected to a network, you can sync it as you collect, and then you can use the plugin to pull that back down to QGIS and see the data.
I'm trying to set up the Q field application at the moment, but it seems to be a little troublesome getting the synchronization to be easy to use for the rest of my office. We are 2 or 3 employees trying to collect field data, and it's me who's trying to set it up, and it's supposed to be quite easy for us to use it, so that they don't have to call me every time and say, yeah, what am I supposed to do now? So if Mergin is easier to get more or less live, something, at least something like one button synchronization, that would be preferable for us. I don't know if you know QGIS field, Q field.
Yeah, I do. They have more similarities and differences. They're all based on the QGIS code base. I find the Mergin Maps interface to be easier to use, and their synchronization piece works flawlessly. So I really like it for that. Some people use it simply to share a QGIS project with other people, even if they're not doing data collection. You can just use the Mergin platform to share a project with people. So yeah, it works quite well. And there's with Mergin Maps, you can go online and look at different, say basically the change log for your project. So you can see timestamps and see what was changed on those dates and who did it, and download the project at different stages. So you might have a project that's been changed 50 times in the last 2 months, and so you could go down and see that whole change history and download the project at any given point in time. So it's a versioning system, and it's pretty powerful.
Another general question. I have the feeling that most users of QGIS are making one map at a time, like building a nice layout and adding the data to it, and then finishing it up and publishing it. And I find that in my line of work, where we do surveys for different areas, we have to start so much over each time. And I find that the workflow is angled, as opposed to making one map one time. We're making the same map layout, but with different data. And to me, it still feels a little less intuitive in QGIS. I'm trying to put up what's it called, schemas, so that you can put the same data in the from the GPS, and then it'll more or less make the layout by itself. But I still think there's a little bit too many steps for my colleagues.
Okay. So what I'm not, have you explored working with the QGIS Atlas that lets you set up, like, for example, here I have a map of all the municipalities, and if I wanted to make one map per municipality, I could use the QGIS Atlas to do that. Is that what you're thinking of, that kind of thing, where you will need to create a whole series of maps?
More or less, yes. I've been thinking about looking into the Atlas, but I haven't reached it yet. I'm still at just the map layout.
Well, it kind of fits within our subject matter. I can give you a quick demo of this. So with the QGIS Atlas, you need a layer that's going to define the map extent for your map series. So here, if the task is to make one map per communa, I can, where's the Atlas tab? I need to go to Atlas settings. Okay, now I see the Atlas tab over here. So I simply start by checking this box, generate an atlas. And then I tell QGIS that the coverage layer is, I have all these versions of it here. Which one is municipalities colored copy? Okay. So I tell QGIS that this is my coverage layer, the layer that has the extent for each map. And I can tell QGIS that the page name is going to be municipality name. And so then I could simply, let's see, and I select the map and go to item properties. And I tell QGIS that the map is controlled by Atlas right here. So it's a property of the map that you can check to control the map by the Atlas. And so I can tell QGIS, okay, for each municipality, make the margin around the municipality, the default is 10%. I could increase or decrease that, or you could use a specific scale or fixed scale. So now that I have just a very, very basic Atlas setup, I can click this button up here, the preview Atlas, and might have to refresh. Okay, so I have, and maybe I'll go in and label these so that we have a label on each one. Okay, so now if I go back to my map canvas and refresh. So now I have a label on each municipality. And so you can see that there's 99 municipalities in Denmark. And so I have this drop-down list of each one. So I could, choose one from the list and have QGIS show me that map. Or you can just go to the next one. And there are settings. You can use some of the expressions in QGIS to, for example, make the title more intuitive. So for example, I could add a title to the map and dynamic text. This is changed. I want to use an expression for the title. And so I'm going to search in here for Atlas. And I can see Atlas page name. So I can simply name, use this Atlas page name variable in my title and make it a font that's more like a title font. I don't want the lorem ipsum default text there. Okay, so now I have a title. So if I start cycling through the maps, the title will change for each map. It's taking QGIS a little longer to update re-render the map as I switch through these. But so for example, now I can have the title of each map update automatically. And you can do a similar thing. There are settings for legends, and legends is the main one. But you can use some Atlas settings to make the whole map a little more intelligent. You have to, start cycling through, and sometimes you'll run into, maybe it doesn't work to have the title on the map because it's going to be covering part of the map. So you may have to, figure out how to arrange items on here that work for all 99 maps, but you can then go here and export the atlas. Like I could choose to just choose a folder and it would export all 99 maps, and I can get a cup of coffee and come back, and then all 99 maps will be finished. So that's what I would recommend trying. And I think there's a blog post that my colleague Mia wrote. Yeah. Yeah, I think this, I'm going to put this in the chat. It's in Danish. And this will, she talks about some of the settings that you need to have with print templates, but it weaves that into using that in an atlas context as well. Is there another one? But there is, she also teaches a layouts course. Yep. Layouts in QGIS. And I think she teaches Atlas in here. Templates. Maybe not. But I think that you could, figure the rest of it out. It's, once you know how to work with QGIS and some of the variables like this, it would become pretty intuitive. So for example, if I was going to put the legend on here and choose to just have one municipalities layer on my legend, I could then there's a checkbox here, only show items inside the current atlas feature. So if I filter this, it's going to remove items from my legend that aren't on this particular atlas page. So with these kinds of settings, you can start generating a template for all the maps in your series that will work for all the maps. And you have to take some experimentation of cycling through them and seeing how the different maps look, but then you should be able to go in and adjust things and have it do all the maps at the same time. It's quite a time saver.
Yes, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So that's the Atlas. And if you don't see the Atlas tab over here, you just have to go to the Atlas menu and choose Atlas settings, and it will open up this tab over here. You can also down here choose how you want to output the file names when you export the entire thing. So instead of Atlas feature number being the name, that would just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could choose the same variable I used for the title, Atlas page name. So it would be, output Gribsco, output Healerol, output for each individual municipality when you exported them. So you can put that setting in there too, so that you have well-named output files. So that's, a quick 10-minute summary of the Atlas. And you can use that to do, there's other things you can do. You can do some symbology to basically highlight the current feature. I can show that. We have like 15 minutes, so I can, where's my book? So if there's something else someone would also want to see, stop me. Otherwise, I'll just continue showing you this. Yes. So let me bring this back up. I'll show you one little trick. So I could, for example, create a copy of this layer, a duplicate layer here. And I'm just going to rename it coverage layer. And I'm going to make this coverage layer have a single symbol. And I don't think I'll use shape burst fill. I'll just use outline, simple line. And I'm just going to make it, let's say, like a yellow, or make it red just for this. I have a red outline, and I'll make it a little thicker. And now I'm going to change this to a rule-based renderer. And I'm going to go into this filter, and I'm going to enter an expression in this filter, which is going to be, what was it, dollar feature ID? Where is it? Yeah. Search for Atlas in here. Yeah, Atlas. So Atlas feature ID equals $ID. So this will basically, when the current ID of the feature equals the Atlas feature ID, which is the current Atlas feature, that'll be the definition of this layer. So it only show this red ring around the current Atlas feature, the current topic of the map. So click OK. And now when I bring up my Atlas again and hit refresh, it should put a red ring around. Rings to, yeah, there we go. So, oops, wrong project. This is the topmost layer, and I don't want any, I must have a blending mode on it or something. No. Why is that?
And how about one of those circles where you, on a larger scale, show where you are?
Oh,
I know it's
yeah,
the other way around.
Yeah.
It's kind of like from the Atlas page.
A locator map. So yeah, so what I would do in that case would be, let's say, you get into map themes. So these map themes basically define which layers participate in the map. So I can choose to add a theme and call this main map. So all the current layers are in the main map. And then I could just choose to turn off the rest of these and just have the OpenStreetMap layer and make this the locator map. Click OK. So now when I bring up my project, my map layout, I'm going to select this map And I'm going to tell QGIS that this map should follow the main map theme, which it does. And now I'm going to add a second map to my project, to my print layout. And I'm going to select it and tell QGIS this map should follow the locator map theme. And I'm going to zoom out to all of Denmark. There we go. It's pretty good. So I'm zoomed out to all of Denmark, and then I can go down to the grids section and add the plus button to add a new, no, not a grid. What did I do? Not grid, overview. And choose to add a new overview map. And the map is going to be map 1. So you can see now in here, you get a little red frame where the current one is. So I could say, maybe I don't like that. I just want it to be maybe just a red outline where we are. So now we have this that shows where we are in Denmark. So if I go to the next map, it'll update. That's where the next QGIS meeting will be for the Danish QGIS user group, actually. So yeah, now we have that locator map adjusting for every map in the atlas.
And that was already built in. That was a preset feature.
That's not really
that
part of
you-
the atlas. That's something you can set up for any map that way. And
Yes.
with the atlas, since it just automatically updates with every map, as so. Yeah.
Most of the time, the trouble is not making something up in QGIS, it's finding it because it's already made by someone in the world.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Well, that was nice. And
Yeah.
and we can go back in the video to see what you did when you invoked the feature.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Cool. Yeah, good question. See, that's the kind of thing, even in this class, QGIS has so many capabilities to kind of pick and choose what to include. And so that's something that could be in here, but there's not time to show usually everything.
No.
So, but we can get into those issues in these little Q&A sessions. So
Yes. And it's I don't know whether it'll be like that forever, but for me, it's I've been using QGIS for a year, something like that, and I know some stuff, but in classes like this, it's like walking down a hallway and you're finding that there are new doors where there didn't used to be doors, and when you open those doors, there's like a storage with lots of shelves, and you can it's like there are worlds hidden behind anonymous doors. It's kind of overwhelming, actually.
yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah. It's true.
And is this more or less goodbye? We're finishing our assignment and emailing them to you, and
then
what
I will
next?
be emailing everyone your course certificate. So you'll get a official QGIS certificate with this. So that's part of the sort of a funding mechanism for QGIS, is that Septima is an approved QGIS training company. And so when we offer a class, we can give certificates from QGIS.org to the participants. And for every certificate, we donate 20 euros to the QGIS project. So yeah, you'll be getting a certificate, but yeah, this is kind of this is the end of the class. So if you have any burning questions, ask them now, and get me your assignments. as soon as you can in the next week or so.
Yes, I'm reading the chat from Charlotte.
Yep, the 3D and the animation. It's also maybe the most fun and exciting part too, because it's not something you do that often. So, yeah. So yeah, thanks so much. It was a great class. Good questions. And
Yes, I hope I'll talk my employer into funding another class for me sometime. But I think the next QGIS adventure for me will probably be trying to get a couple of days off to go to the Netherlands.
great. Yeah, well, I hope to see you there.
I hope that it would be possible for me to bring some of my questions with the project I have at work, collecting data, making the workflow from collecting field data and making layout for our customers a subject. Do you think that is possible?
Yeah, it's especially, that would be great for the not the first 2 days are kind of a conference, but after that, the more informal hack fest, you could definitely pull someone aside and ask them questions. And there's plenty. It gets to be just a nerd fest where people are just welcoming newcomers and helping people. And yeah.
Okay, so it's not the first 2 days, it's the next 2 days. So that's like a week off.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying you could certainly probably run into someone at the conference too, but conferences, people are going to talks and listening to the talk, and then there's a few minutes in between, and it might be harder, but maybe at dinner or after the day or something, you could track someone down and ask questions.
Mm. Or maybe there'll be a offering a workshop or something with the subject already.
Well, actually, there is, and I will be teaching it.
Oh,
I was just gonna tell you that I'm teaching a mergent maps workshop with Saber with Luther Consulting, who's developed mergent maps. So we're gonna team up on that workshop. So
oh, okay.
you could take
Well, you might have sold your first ticket there.
that. Great.
Okay, I'll go. I'll probably make the rest of the assignment now, as I've gotten off duty from the chores in the family. So,
Yeah. Well,
but
great.
it's been entertaining and learning. So thank you for that, Kurt, and it was nice meeting you all.
Yes,
Yes, nice meeting you too.
Yeah, I
And I
hope to see
appreciate
everyone
the
around.
course.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
glad. So yeah, just whenever you have time to get those assignments done, get them to me, and don't be too stressed. Don't be too stressed about it.
No, but I really want to. I've been trying to get some time for the last 2 weeks now, and finally tomorrow seems okay at last. So I'll probably
Good.
hand them in then.
Great. I hope it's fun, and yeah, see everyone around at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yes. Thanks, bye. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.